Today we're going to talk about something that a lot of people have asked me about, and that is the gear that I took on the Tahoe Rim Trail. I was hoping to be able to do that from the trail, but unfortunately my hike ended just a few days early due to this little knee injury that I've been nursing. It's getting a lot better, so thank you to everyone who has expressed their concern about my well-being and wished me well. I will be back out hiking before too long, I'm just not sure when. But for now, I am stuck at home, and it seemed like a really good time to take you through the gear that I took on the trail with me and let you know what worked out well, what didn't. And I did on this trip have a couple of gear failures, which don't usually happen to me. The gear I have actually has done really well over the years, but a couple things kind of let me down. So I'll tell you about that as I go, but I thought the best thing to do might be to just start with my backpack and pull things out to show you what I took and let you know how they did. First off, I have a backpack from Superior Wilderness Designs. It is not a backpack for everybody. It is a lightweight, custom design pack, and one of the things that you'll notice about it is, unlike a lot of packs, mine has a very minimalist hip belt. I really like this. I feel like I don't need the hip pockets. I like that I barely even feel this around my hips. Another nice thing about it is that it's completely frameless, so if I pack my pack well, it just kind of molds to my body, and honestly, with about a 15-pound base weight, I often kind of forget that I'm wearing my pack. It just sort of becomes part of my body. It's been a really good pack for me. In spite of it being a good pack, every pack is prone to having some problems or wear and tear, and unfortunately, I'm a little tough on this one. I take it off, and a lot of times I just drop it next to a log as I'm getting ready to sit down and relax and take a break, and I did find myself with a little tiny hole right here in the X-Pack material. I'm going to fix that with some tenacious tape on the inside, and hopefully it'll continue to be just as durable for a long time, but made me a little sad because I really love this pack. Before I get into what's inside, I'm going to show you the clothing that I wore on the trail and let you know how that worked out for me. I am not really much of a hat person, and on my past few hikes I've seen a lot of people just wearing sun hats instead of ball caps, and I thought, well, that might be a good option for me, since even when I have a ball cap on, I feel like the sun on the back of my neck is kind of hot and I wanted more sun protection. So I picked up this little hat. This is from Outdoor Research. Super soft, crumples up, easy to store. I've got some other Outdoor Research hats, and I really love Outdoor Research gear. When I found this one, I was really pleased, and I will drop information about this and all of my gear down in the description if you want links to any of these products that will help you find them. So anyway, I wore this hat, and I really, actually, after I got used to wearing it, was very happy with it. I love that it's got a drawstring to cinch it up under my chin, and it's also got a little drawstring to tighten it up around my head. I often, when I'm hiking, wear my hair up just in a top knot or a ponytail, and so it's nice to be able to have that room for my hair if it's on top of my head, or just to loosen up if my hair is down. Normally I wear a hiking shirt. This is a Patagonia hiking shirt, and this is a new one. That's my second iteration of it. I've worn it for many years, and it's been an awesome shirt. It's super lightweight. It dries quickly, but I found that I actually did not wear it as my base layer as much as I expected on this trail, because the Tahoe Rim Trail in July is extraordinarily hot, and I had a sun shirt, this Astroman sun hoodie that I got last year, and I was able to wear this just with my sports bra underneath. No t-shirt needed unless it was a little bit cooler. It's a very lightweight fabric, and one of the things that I like about this, as opposed to some of the other sun shirts, is that the fabric is it feels almost woven, but it's got a lot of stretch to it. It doesn't stick to your skin. It's got a little bit of pocket, which surprisingly comes in quite handy for things like my sun gloves and that sort of thing as I'm getting ready in the morning. And I would often, on very hot days when I got to a creek crossing, I would just take this off, dunk it in the creek, put it back on, and it would keep me cool for at least an hour or so until I came to the next creek. So this shirt, even though it's normally part of my regular everyday hiking attire, it just ended up being in my clothing bag, and I wore it a few times on hot nights to sleep in, but very rarely for actually hiking. As far as a sports bra, I just had a little lightweight Nike sports bra. This was great because I could also swim in it, as I could my shorts from Patagonia. They have a liner in them, which is nice because then you don't have to carry extra undies. I like that they have zipper pockets. If I put something in here, it's not going to fall out and get lost. Drawstring in case you lose weight on the trail, although when you're only gone for 2 weeks, that's not a problem. But if you're on a much longer trail, it does become an issue. If I had the chance to swim in an alpine lake, then I would just strip down to my bra and my shorts and enjoy the water. That was heaven. On my feet, I wore my La Sportiva Akasha trail running shoes, which I've been wearing for years. I think I'm on maybe my 8th pair now. And then my go-to is always the 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐸 liner socks. And if you watch my Peyote Trail videos, which you can see up here, I had a lot of trouble with the new version of the Smartwool socks that I have sworn by for literally for years. They changed something about the formula of the fabric, and my newest pair was an absolute nightmare. So I switched over and wore 𝐒𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐸 socks, and these have a little bit of wear on them even before I went hiking. Same style, low cut, have a little bit of cushion in them, and work really well over the liner socks. So that was my go-to footwear. Since that pack has such a lightweight hip belt and no pockets, I use a fanny pack. And this one is from Light AF. I've had it for a few years, and it is starting to get a little bit stretched out here in the front, but I usually just drop my phone down in the pocket. And then this is great because I can take off my pack and run into town, or just even walking around camp, I can have the things I need without having to carry my whole pack. And typically what I put in here is my little wallet, my sun gloves if I'm not wearing them, and these are little Outdoor Research super lightweight sun gloves. They're not hot. They help protect my hands from sun damage, which I have a lot of. Growing up in Florida, I have a lot of sun damage. And then typically just sunscreen, lip balm, hand sanitizer. I carry my knife in here just so it's easily accessible. I take my anti-chafe and I put it into just one of these little tiny containers, and this lasts me a couple weeks. And then also just a little container for some meds, so, you know, Tums, Tylenol, whatever you might want. And then there's one little gadget in here, which is new to me, and I was really excited to get it, and I will show you what it's for in just a minute. But this little thing came from Chicken Tramper Gear, and it is for this thing down here. I got a bear canister because it used to be that you just had to have a bear canister in the Desolation Wilderness, but now you have to have it for the whole Tahoe Rim Basin. This is the first time I've actually had to carry a bear canister, and I was a little wary about the size and the extra weight. And if you watch some of my planning videos, you could see where I was trying to trim out every ounce out of my pack to compensate for the weight of this bear canister. This is the BV 450, so there are two sizes larger than this. I found that I was able to easily carry 5 or 6 days of food in here if I was intentional about how dense my food was, and that worked out just fine. Everything that you have that's got a scent needs to be stored in this, so even if you've got it full of food, you need to be able to put your toiletries in here, your toothbrush, your toothpaste, that sort of thing. So at the end of the day, it was really crammed pretty full when I was starting out, and then as the time went by, obviously I got more space. Let me show you what's in here, and then I'll show you what this little doodad is for. All my toiletries, as I mentioned, were in here, and also when I had space, I would keep my pot inside. If I didn't have the space, and at the end of the day, I would store it near my bear can so that it wouldn't attract any bears or other creatures to the campsite. Inside my pot, I carry some emergency matches. And the stove that I took on this trip was not my MSR Pocket Rocket 2, which is what I've been using. This is a 𝐒𝐻𝐸 super light stove. It was a few grams lighter, and I've had it for 5 or 6 years, and I haven't really used it that much. So I thought, well, let me just give it a try. It only weighs 60 grams, and it did perform really well. I think it's probably a little bit more reliable than maybe a BRS stove that a lot of people use, although honestly, I have not tried that one myself. It's on my list of things to do, is to use that on an upcoming trip and just see how I like it. But this little tiny one folds up very easily, and it's even a little smaller, I think, more compact than the Pocket Rocket. I carry a lighter and a bandana that I use kind of as a hot mat, you know, when my pot's coming off the stove and it's really hot, or to wipe up while I'm cooking. So this often has food odors in it, but it also serves the purpose of keeping things from rattling around in my pot while I'm hiking, which is kind of irritating. Nobody wants to hear rattle, rattle, rattle while they're hiking. My spoon, of course, would be in here, and then I carried in a little odor-proof bag my bug spray, which you definitely need on the Tahoe Rim Trail. There were some areas that were very buggy, and then I also just had some Benadryl anti-itch for bites. I carry a little bag with some meds in it, typically just a little bit of things like Benadryl, Pepto, gas pills. Midnight, which is something that I take when I can't sleep at night. It's got melatonin in it, some herbs, so you can take it at, you know, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning even, and still wake up feeling refreshed and not be groggy. So then I also carry a few little aqua tabs in case the water is super sketchy, or if for some reason my filter gets lost or broken. It's a nice backup to have. So if you've used one of these before, you know that it works with these little barbs that keep it closed. If you haven't, that's the mechanism that bears haven't figured out how to handle. When you close this, there's a little tab right here. You turn the lid until the barbs pass that little tab, and that way if a bear gets a hold of your canister, they can rough it up a bit, but they're not going to be able to get into it unless they're super strong and super persistent. But those little tabs also foil people. You can push it in with your fingers like that and get around. that way, or I was using my spoon previously. But this little gadget just hangs on the tab right there. And as you go to open the canister, it does that pushing for you, which is really pretty neat. And this thing was about 10 bucks, I think. You can buy it from Garage Grown Gear or directly from Chicken Tramper Gear. And you can attach it to your canister if you want, but I was a little concerned if I did that and a bear got a hold of it that they would take the key off. So I just keep it in my fanny pack. All right, so let's get to what is in the pack. We'll start on the outside. I have this little piece of Tyvek, which of course gets dirty on the trail. It is not a replacement for the footprint for my tent. I use this instead of a sit pad. It's great to be able to lay it out, in small shape or much larger if I want to just lay down and take a nap. So I can do that during the day. And then when I am setting up camp for the night, I usually just put this right outside my tent as kind of a landing pad, or I call it a doormat, as I'm coming in and out of the tent, keep some dirt out of my tent. And then if I want to go make a meal sitting on a wet log or something like that, I can just take this with me and sit on top of it. And it keeps my clothes dry and keeps me a little bit less icky. Now, camp shoes I know are something that are a little bit controversial. Some people love them, some people hate them. I personally really like to have camp shoes because by the end of the day, my feet are hot and tired and sweaty, and I want them to be able to air out and recover before the next morning. So I just typically take some very inexpensive, lightweight camp shoes. I've got several different pairs from Walmart, but I walked into Dollar Tree and found these for, yes, literally, they were $1. And I thought for a 2-week hike, they're going to work just fine. I liked that they just nested this way, which some of my other camp shoes don't do. These were just incredibly lightweight. They held up really well. The last thing I typically carry in this outside pocket is my rain jacket. This one is from Lightheart Gear. It's got pit zips, got a nice zipper, and the only thing I don't love about this is the Velcro, but I find that a lot of stuff gets caught on the Velcro, or sometimes I just want to kind of leave my jacket hanging open and it tends to catch and get closed. So otherwise, it's really nice. And it also doubles as a windbreaker, so if it's just kind of cool in the evening when I'm in camp or breezy and I'm chilly, then this is a great thing to put on. On the other side, I have some additional pockets here. This one has a zipper, and it's a waterproof zipper, so things I put in here will stay dry. And it's got a nice little pocket, a stretch pocket on the outside. This little tripod is new to me. The one I had in the past was big enough that I had to keep it in a side pocket, and I didn't use it as much as I wanted to. So having it just at hand's reach when I'm hiking and want to take a quick picture was really convenient. Now, because this is small and lightweight, well, there's two advantages and disadvantages of a tripod like this. You can bend the legs and hang it off a branch and do a lot of kind of cool stuff with it, but it's also not the most stable. And if you just kind of set it up like this, it is prone to kind of tipping over in the wind. But overall, I'm very happy with it, and the price point was pretty reasonable. Now, even though this is a waterproof zipper pocket, the thing that I keep in here is my little pee funnel. This is just a really handy little thing to have as a woman, to be able to take a break and go to the bathroom without having to drop your pack. And yeah, I can talk more about how to pee in the woods later. But on the outside, I have both an emergency whistle and a little thermometer so I can see what the weather's like. I normally don't leave this on during the day, although there were a couple days on the trail where I just wanted to know just how wicked hot it was, so I did keep it on. But a lot of times I just use it at night, like when I wake up in the morning, maybe to see how cold it got during the night, that sort of thing. I have my Garmin InReach. The only complaint I have about it is that it uses the old USB, so it would be nice to have USB-C. If you saw my very last video, you know that I was really contemplating using the SOS button on this thing. Thank God I didn't have to, but it was really a lot of peace of mind to know that it was there for me if I did need it. In this front pocket, I just keep a water bottle. This is 24 ounces, 700 milliliters. So normally I'm carrying a bottle that's anywhere between like 600 to 750 milliliters here with a straw so that I can drink regularly and not have to like stop as I'm hiking. I can just grab the mouthpiece and sip and keep hiking. I also carry 2 1-liter bottles, and then for hot trails, especially like the Tahoe Rim Trail, it's nice to have close to 4 liters of water capacity. So if I needed to, I could carry water in this as well. And even though I had some like 14, 15 mile water carries, I never actually carried water in this. The 2, almost 3 liters that I had in those other bottles was just fine. If you're not familiar with this, this is the Capilene Be Free. I like this one because it's scream fast when you first get it. The bag is nice and flexible, which makes it easy to use, easy to squeeze, and the filters can be replaced. So you buy this as a kit, but if your filter gets really gunky and you just can't get it cleaned up, you can just go replace it with one of these and keep the bag, and it's a little bit more earth-friendly, I think, than some of the 𝐂𝐻𝐬 products where they've got a hard bag that tends to break. And they both filter about the same amount of water, I think 1,000 liters or something like that, before you need to replace the filters. In this pocket, I also just carry in a little bag. This is like my poop kit, so there's some toilet paper in here and a lightweight trowel. This is a 𝐓𝐸𝐻𝐬𝐬 trowel from Tent Lab, and I had it for a while and it's working great. Then on this side, in addition to the water bottle, I have a little Dyneema bag from Mountain Laurel Designs. I got it a few years ago, and one thing I liked about this is because it clips, I could clip it over these cords to make sure that I didn't lose it, because what's inside is a little pricey. This is where I would keep my microphone, and then I also have the Insta360 Flow. It's a gimbal that you can use to steady your shots as you go, and it also has some really cool features of like panning and following and doing some neat things. I haven't had this very long, and I'm definitely not an expert with it, and unfortunately I found that I was not using it as much as I had hoped to on this trail. And when I got into Tahoe City, I was sending some other things home, and this weighed a pound, so I was like, yeah, I'll just send it home. You know? But I do plan to take this on future hikes and practice using it and get better with it, because one of my goals is actually to improve my photography skills and shoot some really cool video for you guys. All right, inside. The first thing that would be in here would be my bear canister, and it would be before this pack liner so that I can access my food very quickly and easily without having to get into my pack. The next thing in my backpack is my tent. I took the 𝐒𝐻 Pro 1, and I got this tent last year before I did the Colorado Trail. And if you watch the review video that I did after that trail with 500 miles under my belt, I definitely had some things that I would have changed about this tent, but not so much that I wanted to get rid of it and get another tent. So I'm learning to live with some of the quirks that bothered me a lot at the time. And on the Tahoe Rim Trail, this tent was awesome. I didn't have any issues with condensation because the air was so dry. It's about a pound, so it was really lightweight. There were a couple times where I had to set up this trekking pole tent using rocks instead of stakes because the ground was so hard and I couldn't get stakes in. My very last night, it was set up with just rocks and no stakes went into the ground at all, except maybe about an inch or so. And it held up really well. So overall, I was very happy with this, and I would definitely recommend this as a good tent to take on the Tahoe Rim Trail. I changed to a smaller electronics bag. This one is from All Man's Right, also available through Garage Grown Gear. It's a much lighter weight Dyneema, and I did notice that there's a couple places that you probably can't see where it was getting some little cuts in the Dyneema, which I think I can fix, but I was a little frustrated with that because I haven't had it for very long. I also switched to a new cord system. So I've got one short cord from Anchor and an Anchor charging block. And then these are little attachments that, this is a USB-C. I've got one that's lightning to convert the cord to lightning for my phone. And then the other one is the old USB type that's got angles to it for my Garmin. This was a little bit of weight savings over all the cables that I've carried in the past. Then I also have just some old school headphones. I use these on the plane, but I didn't use them on the trail at all because I just didn't really watch any videos or anything at night. I was tired, so I get into the tent and I just journal and call it a night. The trail is 175 miles, and I only planned to resupply twice, once at Echo Chalet where you're not allowed to charge your phone, and then in Tahoe City where I was spending an overnight. So I definitely needed some power bank power to get me through. And these are both Nitecore 10,000 milliamp hour charging blocks. These work really, really well. They're a little bit lighter than the Anchor 10,000 milliamp charging block that I used to use. And I just put stickers on them so that if I'm in a public place charging, that I know which blocks are mine. And that actually reminds me, somebody asked me about my bottles as well and what the significance of this tape is. And it's just some funky tape I got at the craft store. But this way, if I'm in a hostel and I'm washing my bottles and I'm leaving them by the sink where everybody's leaving their bottles, I know which ones are mine. I don't have to worry about them walking off, and I don't have to worry about accidentally taking somebody else's bottle either. This is a little Sea to Summit day pack. It packs up into itself as about this big. It's really handy for taking into town if you're going to resupply, you just want to walk around town, want something to carry some snacks or a bathing suit or anything, and it's great for that. I take this on all of my through hikes because I can carry my clothes in it while I'm hiking, and then when I get to town, I can just empty it out and use it as my town bag. And it also works out great for traveling. When I am flying with my pack, I can check my bag The things that I need on the plane or the things that I can't check, I'll carry in here, and this will just be my little carry-on bag. For the Tahoe Rim Trail, I minimize my clothing as much as possible and to save weight to compensate for that bear canister. So I did carry a pair of lightweight socks. These are lighter than the thick wool ones that I usually carry as sleep socks. And I also have a beanie that I got from Mellanzana that's super lightweight. So these keep my head and my feet warm at night. I carried a pair of leggings, and in the past I've used Climate Right, which is made by Cuddle Duds. I've used those leggings to sleep in, but they're really thin and they're not appropriate. Say I needed to hike in them or I needed to travel in them. So I just got a slightly thicker pair of leggings. These are from Felina. They're not expensive. They're soft. They're comfortable to sleep in. They're also fine if I need to wear them into town or to travel or to hike in on a cooler day. And that let me eliminate a pair of hiking pants that I used to carry, either rain pants or hiking pants, to supplement my shorts. This wool shirt is not the lightest wool shirt that I own. It's made by the North Face, and I love it. It's cut a little bit longer, so for sleeping in, it stays down. It's got thumb holes. They're a flat style of thumb hole, which is kind of neat, but it lays flat if you're not using it. So it's really comfortable, really warm shirt. It was pretty warm most evenings on the Tahoe Rim Trail, so I probably could have gotten by without this, but I like to have this, and when I get into camp and I'm just settling in for the evening and cooking my meal and that sort of thing, it's just nice to have some warm, cozy clothes for those cool breezes that might pop up. This is my fleece. This is the Mountain Hardwear. It's like the micro fleece, kind of like the fleece that you can find, the Alpha Direct fleece now, only it's got a smooth outside. And this is one of the pieces that I've had it for a few years, and sadly I noticed while I was hiking on this trip that it does have a little bit of a hole here. I ordered a replacement, but I think I'm actually just going to stitch that up and get more wear out of it and probably just return the replacement. I think I can get a few more years out of this if I'm relatively kind to it. And then, of course, I never go hiking without my puffy. It's the Mountain Hardwear Ghost Whisperer, and I've had it since I did the AT. I've got no complaints about it at all. I had a couple of issues on the AT where little sparks melted, and I just replaced that or fixed that with tenacious tape. And I actually, before I went on the AT, I melted the back of it by getting too close to a heater, but I sent it off to Mountain Hardwear and they repaired it for me. So it has been tried and true and a great little puffy. There's a lot of puffies out on the market now, and you could spend a ton of money on them, but if you've got one that works, then you might as well just keep wearing it. So that's what I'm doing with this one. So that's my clothing. That's all that I took. I know that some thru hikers get by with less than that, but I do look at my sleep clothes as also a safety item, because if you should happen to get really wet, or if it's suddenly cold, or you have snow and that's unexpected and you get wet because of the snow, you want to be able to get into camp and get dry and put on something warm. And that can make the difference between life and death, literally, in certain places. And when you're in mountain terrain like that, where, yeah, it might be really warm during the day, but you never know. There might be a freak snowstorm, and it happens even in July. So I wanted to make sure that I was covering all my bases, pared down my clothes, but I still took what I felt like I needed to be safe. This little ditty bag from Eagle Creek is what I call my tent bag. It's not waterproof, it's just like sil nylon, but it's a great size and shape to carry all the little things that I want to just toss into my tent when I'm setting up at the end of the day. I carry a little pack towel, and I can just dry my whole body with this. I don't need a big towel. And I use it if I am in a hostel and there are no towels, but primarily this is for just wiping down in the evening or wiping condensation off the inside of my tent. I did think about leaving this home and just taking the bandana, but then I realized the bandana is going to have food odors on it, and the last thing I want to do is take a rag with food odors and spread them all over my tent. So this ended up going with me. I carry little dry wipes, and normally at the end of the day, I just wet these and clean up. On this particular trail, there was some very long water carry, so it was really a sacrifice to wet one of these down and get clean. And I ended up carrying wet wipes, which I don't usually do because you got to pack them out and they're heavy, but there is so much super, super fine dust on this trail that it gets everywhere. It gets in your pores, it gets all over your skin, it gets all over your gear, and it's really kind of hard to get clean, but I did not want to crawl into bed feeling completely disgusting. So I picked some of these up at 𝐒𝐻𝐿 Chalet, and I was really glad if I didn't have a mountain lake or a stream to splash around in, that I could get cleaned up with this at the end of the day. I carried an N95 mask, not just for COVID, really not for COVID, but because wildfires are an issue. There were some fires before I started the Tahoe Rim Trail, and I wanted to have this just in case I found myself in an area that was really smoky. I carried a bug net. This one is an insect shield head net from 𝐒𝐻 I did not use this at all, actually, but it was nice to have because there were some areas where the bugs were really bad, and I think if they had been bothering me to the extent like they were in my face, I would have wanted to wear this, but I didn't. I would still take it again though. This is a little bag with my first aid kit. I really just carry a couple Band-Aids, some Q-tips, some lamb's wool for blisters if I get a hot spot. I have a needle in here. I have some tenacious tape and patch kit for fixing things. Safety is important to me, and I carry a few things that other people might not carry. A emergency Mylar blanket is one of them, because if you get hurt or if you're cold or you run into somebody along the trail who maybe has had a fall and they're going into shock, it could be a lifesaver for you or for somebody else. So to me, it's worth the wait in case of emergency. I've never had to use it for that, but still I carry it. And it also makes a nice place just to carry an extra hair tie. My headlamp is in here. I tend to keep it here unless I think I might be night hiking, and then I'll pull it out. This is a little night core headlamp. It's super lightweight. When I first got it, I wasn't sure about these stretchy straps and how they would compare to the soft band that I had on my Petzl, but I actually really like this. I did carry a little extra cord for my tent, and I did use some of it on a really windy night to stake out the sides of my tent. I don't have those attached permanently to the tent, but it was nice to have a little extra cord in case I needed it. This is just a little ID bracelet from Road ID. You can set up a whole profile and have all your emergency contact information on the little ID band here. That way, if something happens to you, then there's a way for first responders to get in touch with your family and know if you've got any allergies or health conditions that are critical to making sure that you're safe. In this little bag, I just have a pair of tweezers and some nail clippers, which come in very handy along the trail. A comb. I don't carry a brush. And then the final thing that's in here is a bag to keep my journal dry. And I just use these little journals that come in a multi-pack from Amazon, and they're good size for through hiking. And then I also got this little tiny Tahoe Rim Trail pocket atlas. I almost left it at home, but I was really glad that I had it as a supplement to using the Far Out app, because it listed some information that is not in Far Out. And just for me, having a visual of a slightly larger map with some points of interest and waypoints and things like that was useful. So this was worth the extra few ounces that it cost me to carry it. Now we are getting down to my sleep system. And a sleep system is something that is very personal, and it can take a little bit of work to get it nailed down, to dial it in the way you want it. I am really happy with what I have, but I'm going to tell you there's one thing in here that broke my heart on this trip. This is my quilt from Underground Quilts. I did a whole video on how to sleep with a quilt. If you've never used one before and you're curious, you can see that up here. This quilt has served me well since the Appalachian Trail, so that's 5 years now, and it's really held up very well. I think I got one little spot where I had to patch it at one point. I don't even know where it is. Right here. Put some tenacious tape there and it's fine. It was rated for 20 degrees, but then I had them add like overstuff, an ounce of down in the foot box and an ounce in the body. So my guess is it's probably about a 17-degree quilt, and it does keep me warm because it has straps that can tuck it around your sleeping pad. It's interesting because it feels pretty comfortable even on hot nights, and then it keeps me warm on cold nights. So it's a great little quilt from Underground Quilts is the brand. This is, or was, my sleeping pad. This is from Thermarest, and it is the uber light pad that weighs just 8 ounces. It is really hard to find an 8-ounce sleeping pad, and it does not have a high R value, of course, because it's so lightweight. But for the Tahoe Rim Trail, I didn't feel like I needed a lot of R value, and I wasn't worried about the temperatures being down in the teens or anything like that, where particularly if the ground is really cold, that's when you tend to sleep cold. But in the summertime, if the ground's warm, it's not so much an issue. So I love this pad. I absolutely love it. I love the weight. I love how comfortable it is. But on my very last night, when I was dealing with my knee pain and trying to figure out what I was going to do the next day, I went to lay down and I heard this big pop like really loud. It shocked me. And I looked down and some of the baffles had broken and I was like, oh no, you know, it happens to pads, it does. But I didn't want it to happen to this pad. I sat up when that happened and the breakage was like halfway across the pad. But then as I was sitting there, it just went pop, 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 up and went all the way across. So I've got a big strip across the middle of the pad where the baffles are all broken and it looks like a pillow. So when I got home, I contacted Thermarest, and they are well known for their very good warranty. They got back to me very quickly and they informed me that that pad is no longer made, which really, really broke my heart because I would love to have another one. But they said, we'll give you another pad, no problem at all. So they sent me this. I have not used it yet, but basically it's a very similar pad. It's 13 ounces, a little bit more R value. And you may have heard of these being super, super crinkly. Several years ago they were, but they've redesigned it, and so it's not nearly as crinkly as it used to be. It's good to buy gear from companies that have excellent warranties. Thermarest is one. Osprey is another. If you're buying a backpack, Osprey and Gregory have great warranties. And there are several companies out there like that who will really stand by their gear. A couple of other pieces of my sleep system. This is just a Trekology pillow from Amazon. I did consider taking a lighter weight pillow from Big Agnes, but I really like how comfortable this is because it's got this outer pillowcase with a little bit of quilting on it, and it just feels more like a pillow from home. I have been using a Rab silk liner for a little while, and I've made some modifications to it. I put some cord, it's rectangular shape, so I just put some cord to pull it together at the foot, and then I also ran a little cord through the top with some toggles to just help it stay on my sleeping pad. It is starting to show its age. It's just when you're backpacking and doing long distance hikes, it can be kind of hard on things, and silk is a little bit delicate. But I love the silk because it's lightweight. It adds warmth when you're cold, and it actually keeps you cool in the summer. So this is a wonderful thing to have in my pack. And if it's super hot, I just slide my sleeping pad down inside it, and then I lay on top of the liner with my quilt on top, and that's a very comfortable way to sleep. This little dry bag usually just sits right in the bottom of my pack, but I have it to put my quilt in when it's wet out so that I don't get moisture on the quilt, or if the quilt is wet itself, it doesn't get other things wet. So water has a way of just multiplying and getting everywhere. So if you've got one piece of wet gear and you throw it in your pack, the next thing you know, everything's going to be wet. If it's dry out like it was for most of the Tahoe trail backpacking trip, I just put the quilt down in the bottom of my pack. It's soft, it scrunches up, and then other things can go on top of it. And I find my pack packs up really nicely that way. So normally I just put this in the bottom of my pack with the toggles that I use to keep the quilt tucked in around me when it's cold out. Then I have a pack liner. It's a trash compactor bag. So some people use contractor bags, the big giant black bags, but that's a lot more bag than you need for a relatively small pack like this 40-liter pack. I just use this one. It's about the same size as the pack. Normally this wouldn't even come out of my pack, but there was one item that I had to carry at the very bottom of my pack, and that was this IKEA duffel. This was because I was flying, and flying with your pack is not always the easiest thing to do. You can take your backpack and you can take your chances and check it as is, or try to strap down all the straps, but I've had clips and things break. So I put all my gear inside this, and then I check this. It gives an extra layer of protection, and it's also got some backpacking straps on the back. You can carry it like a backpack if you need to, and then it's got handholds, so you can just carry it like a duffel. It's very versatile. It doesn't weigh a lot. I think I paid $10 for it, and I've used it for at least 3 or 4 trips, so it's pretty durable. If I had started at Tahoe City, I might have been able to leave some things there like travel clothes in a duffel, but I didn't want to do that, so I just carried it with me, and I didn't even think about it once it was in there, honestly. The last piece of gear is my trekking poles. And these little guys have saved me many, many times from falling. They help take some of the weight and the pressure off your knees, although I did end up with a knee injury, but that was its own thing. I have been incredibly happy with these Cascade Mountain Tech poles. These are carbon fiber. I love the style that collapses here instead of the accordion style, because they give you a lot of flexibility if you're going up hills or down hills, that you can change the size. And they do fit into that IKEA duffel when I travel. They're not very expensive, so if you're on a budget and want to save some money on your backpacking gear setup, this is a great place to do it. actually this worked out great as a cane. Thankfully, TSA in Reno did not take it away from me. I was a little worried that might happen. I checked one and took the other as a cane. And so that was very nice of them. Thank you, TSA in Reno. So that's it. That's everything I took on the Tahoe Rim Trail. I wouldn't change much about this gear setup. So if you have any questions or would like some additional recommendations or feedback, feel free to drop a comment down below. I read them all, and I'll look forward to seeing you here again next time.